In the early 1980s, the expansion of the direct market, aka shops that specialized in selling comic books, allowed for several new comic book publishers to appear on the scene. The new distribution outlet gave the opportunity to market to readers, while newsstands were still pretty much devoted to Marvel, DC, and Archie. This would be called the black and white boom, as most of the independent publishers couldn't afford to print in color. Some of the breakout titles from this era include Cerebus, Gru the Wanderer, and Usagi Yojimbo.
In 1984, two young men from New Hampshire named Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird set about a brainstorming session to conceive of their own black and white independent comic. The two would draw inspiration from the Teenage Mutants of the X-Men and the Ninjas of Daredevil. Where they got Turtles from, I have no idea.
The book would soon catch the attention of a licensing agent named Mark Friedman, who took the idea to a small toy manufacturer named Playmates to pitch an action figure line. Playmates was initially hesitant and requested a cross-media deal, like a television series, be created alongside the toy line. So a 5-part animated miniseries was commissioned for Murakami Wolf Swenson Productions, now known as Fred Wolf Films.
And here's where I have to tell you that due to rights concerns, I can't actually show you anything from any of the animated series. So you're just going to have to settle for pictures of the action figures instead.
That initial animated series would run an astonishing 10 seasons in both syndication and on CBS. The Turtles would get a second animated incarnation, which ran for 6 seasons in 2003. Then another animated series would debut in 2012 after Nickelodeon acquired the rights from Eastman and Laird. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle empire also grew to include a live-action television series that nobody really likes to talk about, 2 touring musical shows, multiple video games, and 6 feature films, 5 live-action, and 1 animated.
Suffice to say, I think we can easily classify the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as pop culture icons. And today, we're revisiting the humble origins of the Heroes in a Half Shell in IDW Publishing's reprints of the first 4 Ninja Turtles stories in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Classics Black and White, Volume 1.
Leonardo leads his brothers Raphael, Michelangelo, and Donatello out of the sewers for the first time, where they encounter a gang known as the Purple Dragons. The thugs believe that they're facing a group of costume crime fighters. They're wrong. Even though the turtles are outnumbered, the 4 quickly make their way through the dragons. They then return to the sewers as the police arrive. The 4 return to their makeshift lair area, where their ninja master, a rat named Splinter, greets them. He's pleased with the results, and now he knows their greatest challenge awaits. And he then fills the turtles in on his and their combined past. 20 years earlier, Splinter lived in Japan as the pet rat of a man named Hamato Yoshi. Yoshi was a high-ranking member of a Japanese ninja clan known as the Foot. Every day as Yoshi trained, Splinter would mimic his master's actions in his cage. Then, one day, a Chinese woman named Tang Shen entered into Yoshi's life. Yoshi was in love with Shen, but he had a rival, a fellow Foot member named Uroko Nagi. Ultimately, Yoshi won over Tang, but Nagi would not give up so easily. One night, Nagi broke into Shen's home in an attempt to abduct her. When she refused to leave, Nagi began beating Shen. It was then that Yoshi arrived. Yoshi attacked Nagi and wound up killing his rival in the process. Knowing the dishonor Yoshi had brought to the Foot Clan, he and Shen fled to America, where they would open up a martial arts academy in Brooklyn. However, someone was left back in Japan. Nagi's brother, Oroku Saki, swore vengeance on those who killed his brother. Saki began training and working his way up the Foot Clan's chain of command. Eventually, Saki would come to be placed in charge of the Foot's New York branch. Saki would run the Foot like a Yakuza-esque organized crime family specializing in assassination. Finally, he made his move on Shen and Yoshi. He broke into the couple's home and killed Shen just as Yoshi returned home from work. He then killed Yoshi. In the midst of the struggle, Splinter's cage was broken, and that left the rat to wander the streets of New York for the next 2 years. Then, one day, Splinter witnessed a blind man trying to cross a street as a truck was barreling down on him. Suddenly, a young man leapt into the path and tackled the blind man. The truck swerved and began spilling canisters of waste. One struck the youth in the eyes, and another would strike a glass bowl that held 4 pet turtles of another child. Splinter went down to the sewers, where he found the turtles covered in mysterious ooze. He scooped the turtles up in a coffee can, and the next day he noticed that the turtles had nearly doubled in size. He also noticed a change in his appearance as well.
That's right, apparently the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles share their origin with Marvel Comics' Daredevil. Anyways, Within a year, the turtles would be fully grown and have the ability to both talk and walk upright. Splinter then began training the turtles in the art of the ninja, and he would give them their names from a discarded book of Renaissance artists. And we all know those names. Leonardo, the leader, Donatello, the brains, Raphael, the muscle, and Michelangelo, the trickster.
Splinter then dispatches the four on their true mission, track down and kill Oroku Saki, or as he is now known, the Shredder. Raphael is sent out to scout for the Shredder and deliver a message. He locates the foot compound and takes out a few guards. Then, through a window, he sees Saki trying to extort money from a construction company. The meeting is interrupted by Raphael hurling a side blade through the window with a note attached to it. The note challenges the Shredder to face the group the next night in a fight to the death. The next night, the brothers wait on the roof of an abandoned building for the Shredder to arrive. He appears, but he's not alone, as he calls forth a group of foot soldiers. The turtles struggle at first, but soon they overcome the soldiers. However, the Shredder knows the four are hardly at 100%. Raphael is the first to attack, but Saki knocks him down quickly. Donatello is next, then Michelangelo. They too get tossed aside. That leaves Leonardo. He manages to get a quick slice with his katana blade, and Leonardo then changes strategy and begins launching shuriken at Shredder. The others join in on the ranged attack, and Shredder dodges Raphael's sai, allowing one of the other turtles to get in a few blows.
Look, this thing is in black and white. I don't really know which turtle this is because they're not holding their weapons. Heck, even if this thing were in color, I still couldn't tell you since the turtles originally all wore red bandanas. They wouldn't get their well-known color coordination until the 80s animated series debuted.
The turtles begin to gain the upper hand on Shredder, even knocking off his mask. Leonardo then manages to run a katana through Saki's shoulder. Shredder then goes for his last move and pulls out a grenade. Before he can drop it, Donatello launches his bow staff at Saki and knocks him over the edge of the building. Shredder is blown to bits in the resulting explosion. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles then return to the sewers, their mission having been completed.
Well, that was quick, wasn't it? Well, here are my overall thoughts on the story. Oh, wait. No, wait. There's still 3 more stories we need to cover. Never mind.
Raphael and Michelangelo spar while the others watch a TV news report. A scientist named Baxter Stockman has developed something to help New York City's rodent problem. It's called the Mouser, a remote-controlled robot that is designed to track down and eliminate all pests where they live. Stockman's assistant, April, then gives the TV crew a demonstration of the Mouser's ability.
Why, yes, that would be April O'Neil in her original incarnation. And yes, she's obviously going to be playing a bigger role later on.
The report is interrupted by Michelangelo crashing into the TV. Splinter is left deeply affected by the report and leaves to meditate. Weeks go by, and Baxter Stockman's Mousers are employed throughout the city. They're rather effective, however, there have also been a series of mysterious bank heists going on. The vaults of various institutions have all been tunneled into. April reads a news report of the break-ins to Baxter, who pays it no mind. He has something to show April. He takes her to a blocked-off sub-basement of his laboratory where the Mousers are being mass-produced by the tens of thousands. This shouldn't be. Stockman doesn't have the funding to produce Mousers of this scale.
Q Akbar.
Stockman goes on to explain his grand plan. He's going to hold New York City ransom by weakening the foundation of several major buildings. Why? Because it's fun. April tries to escape, but Baxter locks the elevator and programs the Mousers to target her. April has no choice and heads into a storm drain that leads into the sewers. However, the Mousers are in hot pursuit. Just as they begin to close in on her, the robots are obliterated by 3 types of weapons. April takes one look at her rescuers, the turtles, and faints. Leonardo, Raphael, and Donatello take April back to their lair. Michelangelo is cleaning up from the mess he had made. April comes to, and Splinter fills her in on the history of him and the turtles, off-panel. This is followed by the group watching a news report of a video ransom demanding $1 billion in exchange for protection of the city's infrastructure. Baxter then gives a little demonstration on a condemned building. April offers to take the turtles back to Stockman's lab. The group stealthily makes their way into the lab and confronts Stockman. They pull him away from the main computer so that April can shut down the Mousers. However, Stockman manages to break free long enough to press the self-destruct button. Now the Mousers will return to the lab and destroy everything within. The group heads to Baxter's elevator in an attempt to escape, as the sewers will soon be so full of mousers. Except, it's packed full of rocks. This leads April and Donatello to begin desperately trying to reprogram the computer and shut down the encroaching mousers. Raphael finds a stock of plastic explosives, which Leonardo can use to line the entrance of the lab. The turtles line the storm drain as they hear the mousers approach. Leonardo, Michelangelo, and Raphael fight off several mousers and barely manage to set the explosives off. It's only a temporary fix, though, and it really falls to April and Donatello. Mousers begin to break through as the two hit firewall after firewall. Just as Leonardo, Michelangelo, and Raphael begin to get swarmed, Donatello tries to take out the transmitter for the mousers. It works. Barely.
Baxter Stockman's not gone, by the way. He would return a few more times to menace the Turtles, though not as a fly like certain media incarnations usually depict him as.
The Turtles return April to the surface, where she intends to report Baxter Stockman to the police. The Turtles intend to return to Splinter and prepare to avoid the coming inspections by leaving their lair. April gives the four brothers her phone number, and they part ways. Upon returning home, the Turtles discover their walls having been chewed through. The brothers enter only to find the remains of several mousers, Splinter missing, and blood on the floor. Leonardo does his best to calm his brothers down and begin preparations to abandon the lair. Raphael is having none of it, though, and storms off. Leonardo, Michelangelo, and Donatello take refuge in a small alley shortly before the police arrive. Raphael rejoins them after turning up nothing in his search for Splinter. The Turtles then call April. She picks them up in her Volkswagen van, where the Turtles inform her what happened to Splinter, and they begin to head back to her apartment. It's then that two police officers mistake April's car for one from a bank robbery and begin pursuing it. April proceeds to lead the police on a chase throughout New York City, even Central Park.
Because when I think of a car that can easily maneuver through traffic in a high-speed chase, I naturally think of the VW microbus.
Eventually, the chase manages to lead right to the actual van used in the bank robbery. April manages to spin that van out, leaving the police to apprehend the robbers. April then takes the Turtles back to her apartment, which is located above an abandoned antique shop. Shortly after settling in, the Turtles fall asleep. Meanwhile, Splinter comes to in a gutter. He's broken and bloody. He slowly remembers what happened with the Mouser attack. He fought off a few of the Mousers before he fled the lair in order to protect his sons. However, the Mousers pursued him. Before they could properly attack, though, the return to the base signal came from Baxter hitting the self-destruct switch. Returning to the present, Splinter is discovered by sewer workers from some place called TCRI. At first, the two workers try to shoot Splinter until they discover he can talk. They take him back to TCRI headquarters. There, they are joined by other scientists who stabilize Splinter before taking a break and complaining about how uncomfortable their suits are. Splinter comes to and prepares an escape attempt and making his way through the halls of the TCRI building. There, he overhears the TCRI crew talking. He makes his way to the room where he hears the voices coming from. It's then that he discovers several small, brain-like creatures sitting outside of their humanoid suits.
Okay, these beings are called Utroms. And yes, they were the inspiration for Krang from the 1980s series and the Krang from the recent Nickelodeon series. However, while Krang and the Krang are actually villains, the Utroms are really benevolent creatures.
Raphael and Michelangelo spar in the antique shop below April's apartment. It appears that Raph may have the upper hand until Mikey monkey flips his brother into a bookshelf. An irate Raph accuses Michelangelo of cheating and begins threatening his brother with a monkey wrench. Thankfully, Leonardo steps in to halt the attempted bludgeoning. Leo tells Raph to take a walk and cool off, and Raph storms away. In reality, he's upset with how his anger got the better of him. Elsewhere, an unknown man watches a bad cop movie on TV. He knows the streets are full of scum, and he is the only one to clean it up. New York City is now officially the playground of Casey Jones.
Why yes, this is the debut of the sports-themed vigilante known as Casey Jones. Casey's war on crime began when the Purple Dragons killed his father and burned down the Jones family auto shop. Now, Casey did originally have a kill all criminals motive, but he does soften in later stories. Now, if you happen to be a viewer of a certain CW television drama, you would know that DC Comics has a hockey mask-wearing vigilante known as Wild Dog. No, Casey Jones is not based on Wild Dog. In fact, Wild Dog actually debuted a year after Casey Jones debuted. So it's all likelihood he's based on Casey Jones.
Jones goes out on patrol where he witnesses Raphael breaking up a mugging. Jones is stunned as Raph elects to let the two muggers go, leading him to swoop in and begin beating the muggers without mercy, even breaking one of their legs. This catches Raph's attention and he begins fighting Casey, even going as far as to grab his side blades. However, Casey stuns Raph with a golf club to the throat and runs off. Knowing that Casey will do no harm to the good, Raphael sets out to track the maniac down. He comes across Casey going after two car stereo thieves, and the two resume fighting. This time, Raph gets the upper hand and tries to get Casey to give Reason a chance. Casey ignores Raphael, though, and just runs off into a nearby park. Raphael goes after Casey again, only to get lured into a setting where Casey can hide in the brush and strike at Raph quickly. Eventually, Raph gets his hands on one of Casey's baseball bats, and the two begin brawling once more. Finally, a tired Casey concedes, and Raph manages to reason with Casey, telling him that simply killing criminals isn't fixing the problem. It's then that the two overhear another mugging taking place, and they both rush off to stop it, with Raphael swearing to hold Casey in check.
And so that concludes Volume 1 of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Black and White Classics. How was it? Well, it is really interesting to see how the phenomenon began. You do get a lot of the character traits for the Turtles going into this, except for maybe Michelangelo. He's a little underwritten. And yeah, the artwork is a little amateurish, but given the fact that the guys working on this were, well, basically amateurs, it's at least understandable. And, well, if the black and white does turn you off a little bit, there is a color version available, and they're both available on Comixology for about $8, so they're not going to hit your wallet too hard. That being said, the major drawbacks with these are, one, most of these stories are really, really padded out. The pacing is not very good. I'm willing to cut some slack on the first story and the battle with the Shredder and everything, because they did have to go through the backstory and set up the battle and like I said. But after that, the whole Mouser story is stretched over 2 issues, and it really doesn't need to be. I think that could easily be tightened up to 1 issue, and then maybe deal with the fallout of that in the second issue, which would be issue 3. Also, the whole Casey Jones Raphael story, I'm not going to say it doesn't belong in this. It does continue on from the Splinter being missing story, but it would be nice if we had maybe gotten a follow-up with what was going on with the Utroms then. Like maybe they could have taken an issue out of Volume 2 and moved it into Volume 1. I think that would have really helped. And so, because of that, I really don't feel comfortable recommending this too much unless you are really interested in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So, I'm going to give Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Black and White Classics Volume 1 a C. And with that, let's see what we'll be doing next time on the Random Trade Review.